All right, what's going on, guys? Alex here with TFL Bike, and right next to me,
also Case.
And today we have some pretty exciting news because Honda just confirmed that the Grom will be coming to the US for 2022. We already made a video on this a couple months ago when Honda announced the Grom for the first time, but that was the European spec model. Things have changed a little bit for the US model, so we're going to go through all the details on that in this video.
That's right, the 2022 Grom should be in dealerships in the US in May of 2021, starting at $3,399. So the same price as the old model, which is nice because $3,400 for any new motorcycle, that's really not bad.
Yeah, I think that's a really good deal for a brand new motorcycle. Good to see they're not increasing the price. We're not only going to touch on the new Grom in this video though, we'll go through after we get through all the details and tell you all the other mini motos, or at least the most popular ones that you could go out and buy in 2021. So that way you can decide if the new Grom is right for you.
Let's run really quick through the powertrain and chassis. You get a 124cc air-cooled single-cylinder engine. It's fuel injected. And this new 2022 Grom now has a 5th gear, which is really nice to add an extra gear. You also have more fuel capacity, so from 1.45 gallons to 1.59. You also get inverted forks and a preload adjustable rear shock. You have a new flatter seat that fits more riders of different heights. You get a full feature LCD display and a really nice addition of a replaceable oil filter.
Yeah, that was something that Grom owners were really bummed out about in the past. You only had an oil spinner and screen that you could clean out. Now you actually have a full-on replaceable oil filter.
If you want ABS on the new Grom, it's a $200 option, so, not a ton of extra money. And there's also a new special version of the Grom called the Grom SP, and that's an extra $100 from the base model, but it doesn't appear that you can get ABS on the Grom SP, at least when you go to configure it on Honda's website, it doesn't show any option.
No, and I don't think that's a terrible thing. Most Grom enthusiasts, at least, the people who are really building these out to stunt on them, most of those guys go for the non-ABS model anyway, and so I think the Grom enthusiasts who will be interested in the SP model probably don't want ABS anyway, so I'm sure Honda was looking into their sales numbers on that. Really cool looking bike though, with all the gold parts on it, the gold wheels, the gold forks, the gold brakes, the gold rear shock. And for $100, I think that's a no-brainer. If you're okay with not having ABS, I would definitely go with the SP model.
Absolutely. It would definitely cost you more than $100 to make the wheels gold and the forks gold and the calipers gold and the spring on the back yellow, and especially, there's a decent amount of differences there that justify the extra $100, at least in my mind. And yeah, I mean, I actually think it is a bit of a bummer that you can't get ABS because in my mind, who wouldn't want that color scheme? I think that's definitely the coolest looking Grom from the factory. But one nice thing about this new Grom is that they've made all the body panels very easy to remove so that they're more easily modifiable. You can personalize them. So potentially a lot of people will be taking a more standard Grom and customizing it in their own way.
Yeah, you've got these big screws holding the side panels on, and Honda says they'll be really easy to customize, so I'm guessing you'll be able to replace those out with some parts that you can get at your Honda dealership, change up the color of those, and honestly, if you want to just pull them off, paint them yourself, and really customize the look of your bike. So really cool to see there. As far as the bodywork goes, I know we saw this bike a couple months ago, and we talked about this, but they definitely went for more of a retro theme on the Grom. At least that's what it looks like to both of us. Still a little bit sportier than the Monkey, looks a little bit new school compared to the Monkey, but it's interesting that they went a little bit closer to the retro side when they're also selling the Monkey alongside it.
Yeah, but I do personally like the new body panels a lot. I think it's a little bit more rounded, a little less angular, and I think that fits the attitude of a small motorcycle because at the end of the day, it's not like this massive, powerful super bike, so it might as well be a little bit softer and more fun to look at. Now the standard Grom comes in 2 colors. You can get Queen Bee Yellow or Matte Black Metallic. For an extra $100, like we mentioned, then you can get the Grom SP in Pearl White with all those funky graphics on it. And then the Grom ABS is candy blue only, and like I mentioned, that's an extra $200 from the base. So the most expensive Grom you can get, the ABS, is $3,599. So still not an especially expensive bike.
Yeah, and like we were saying, that is not even $1 more than last year, so you're not having to pay more to upgrade to this model. So those colors are a little bit different than what we saw a couple months ago for the European Grom. The colors are going to be different here. It's no secret that Euro 5 is kind of the main reason this bike was redesigned. That's why they had to redo the motor on it, but the fifth gear and the oil filter are definitely welcome additions. The fifth gear is huge. This isn't a bike you really want to go down on the highway on, but you know, you want to be able to leave town on it and take it on like a 50-mile-per-hour road and not have the bike screaming the whole time. So we're really excited to get some seat time on this and test out that fifth gear and see how it does.
Now we do have to talk about some other mini motos because there are other very cool bikes in this segment, 3 in particular, and the first one that we want to talk about is one from Kawasaki. This is the Z125 Pro. These mini motos came out in 2018 and they start at $3,299, so $100 less starting price as compared to the Grom.
Yeah, this was Kawasaki's direct answer to the Grom. Came out as a 2018 model year. The original Grom came out as a 2016, and that was just so popular that Kawasaki decided they need something to go up against it. It never really caught on quite as much as the Grom. I think part of the reason is the aftermarket support isn't quite as good. You still can get, you know, your crash bars and cages and everything like that for the Z125 Pro, but just not as many options and not as big of a community as on the Grom. 4-speed manual transmission, no ABS. So compared to the new Grom, it's a little bit lackluster. It most closely stacked up against the old Grom, but now that there's this new one for just $100 more, I don't think there's really a great reason to go with the Z125 Pro, and Kawasaki probably needs to change it up pretty quickly, or I think that bike's gonna die off pretty quickly as well.
Another interesting mini moto on our radar is the Benelli TNT-135. This Benelli is only $2,749 starting price, so considerably less expensive than both the Kawasaki and the Grom. It's got a 134.7cc engine, 11.3 horsepower, so potentially a little bit more power from that slightly bigger engine because the Groms usually sit right around 9.7 horsepower. The Benelli is the only single overhead cam 4-valve engine in its class. It's also got a 5-speed gearbox.
I really like the way the Benelli looks. It's got that super sporty look, and I think it's a little bit more aggressive looking than the Grom and the Z125 Pro. Neither of us have ridden this bike, but according to published reports, sounds like it's kind of a Grom killer. People say it picks up a lot quicker than the Grom and you can get a faster top speed out of it. These are made in China. They're designed in Italy. Pretty cool looking bike, and hopefully we can get some seat time on one soon.
Now, one thing that would be interesting for me to check out getting our hands on the Benelli is one of my favorite things about all the Honda mini motos that we've put our hands on is that they're actually really nicely put together. The fit and finish on them is pretty top notch. So this being a much less expensive motorcycle, I wonder if it could compete with that.
I wonder that too, especially being a Chinese built bike compared to the Japanese built bikes. It'd be really interesting to see and get a close look at it in person versus just looking at pictures online. It's hard to tell, and neither of us have ever even seen this bike in person, let alone ride one, whereas yes, we've both seen a Grom, not the new one, but a Grom and a Z125 in person, and they are built pretty well. So yeah, interested to see how that Benelli stacks up. There's also the Honda Monkey, which is not as sporty as the Z125 Pro, the Grom, and the Benelli, but it's basically the same setup as the Grom. They haven't put the new motor in the Monkey yet. That's probably coming right around the corner. So the Monkey kind of uses the same setup as the previous generation Grom, but $3,999, a little bit more expensive than the Grom. 125cc with the older 4-speed like I just talked about. Comes in red or blue. You can get ABS for an extra $200. So a little bit more expensive than the Grom, but you get that really cool old school styling, and it's still a true mini moto with those 12-inch wheels. Tommy has this bike. We've both ridden it. It's a blast.
Yeah, the Monkey is a ton of fun. We love the way it looks. Again, the build quality on it is really nice. The ABS version of the Monkey only comes in red. However, red is a good color on that motorcycle, so
Yeah.
I'm not mad about it.
Doesn't look bad at all. They made a yellow one a couple years ago too. The yellow is by far my favorite. I'm a little bummed that they nixed that one. So I'd love to see the yellow make a return. But honestly, I'm just looking forward to a new Monkey that we should be seeing pretty soon with this new engine and possibly an updated look as well.
Now there are some other mini motos out there, but these are some of the most popular, so we wanted to cover these ones primarily. And if this style of bike really isn't your cup of tea, there are also some other small sort of motorcycles, depending on how you define it. Most people call both the Honda Super Cub and the Honda Trail a motorcycle, but I don't know. I mean, they don't have a clutch. That's one of the big differences between those and these other mini motos that we've been checking out.
Yeah, definitely. They're semi-automatic, so you don't need to use a clutch. And personally, I love having a clutch. I don't love the feeling of clicking through gears without the use of a clutch. Also, the next two on our list aren't true mini motos. They are really small bikes, but a true mini moto has 12-inch wheels front and rear, and these have a little bit of a bigger wheel and tire setup. They're both Hondas, and I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Honda is making the best mini bikes out there. They have the most personality, and they have the most options too if you want a small bike to ride around the city.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Honda rules this segment. I mean, like we were looking at, there are some interesting competitors, but Honda's got a lot of cool bikes in this space. So the two that we're looking at are the Honda Super Cub C125 and the Honda Trail 125. Both of them mechanically are very similar. The Honda Super Cub starts at $3,749. You can only get it in red. All of them have ABS as standard. So it has a 125cc engine, air-cooled, very simple, and a 4-speed semi-automatic transmission. There's no inverted fork, and it's a drum brake in the rear, so a pretty old-school, simple setup as compared to most of these other bikes that we've been looking at.
Yeah, we actually made a bunch of videos with this Super Cub. We had one hanging out at our office for a while, and we did a road trip on that bike and the ADV 150 out to Lyons, so pretty cool video if you're interested in checking it out. Tommy also did a quirks and features video going through everything that's changed in, I think, 56 years of that bike being in production. That's the best-selling motorcycle of all time, and I actually think it's the best-selling vehicle of all time as well. So we have tons of content on that. And then there's the Trail 125, which, like you said, uses the same power plant, but very different style on that bike.
Yeah, it's a lot more rugged. It's got knobby tires, and it's really cool looking. We love the Trail. We actually got to pull a couple old Trails, one 1968 and one 1972, out of a barn. We got the 1972 Trail running. We got to run it around in the dirt a little bit, and it is such a blast. Those are awesome motorcycles.
They're really cool. So both these bikes, the Trail 125 and the Super Cub, have a lot of heritage, a lot of history. And yeah, if you pick up one of these bikes, you're going to get a lot of looks. People might not be able to tell if it's the new one or from 40 years ago. But overall, whether you go with a true mini moto with 12-inch wheels or one of these other Hondas, they're all great bikes for getting around town, and they're all super affordable. There's not a single bike on this list that's over $4,000.
If you currently have a Grom, let us know in the comments down below. Would you trade your Grom for this new model, or is it not enough of a difference to make you make that switch? Anyways, that's all for this video. Be sure to go back to tflbike.com for more news, views, and real-world reviews, and we'll catch you in the next one.